Well, for me, personally right now, I would have liked to be on like the higher track and already have taken like Algebra 2 and chemistry and all that. But in middle school, I moved from Springfield to Northampton to Amherst. And when I got to Amherst, they did not give me the option of taking accelerated math. I wasn't even told about it. So I stayed in like regular, average math classes, and it affected the classes and the courses I could take in high school.
I think that like having a worksheet where you get to select your own level of classes is good, but I think all students, it doesn't matter like what you raise, need to be encouraged to take the right course, and I think teachers may not be taking the time they need to take with each student to help guide them because of certain factors, which may or may not include race. So I think the system itself works, but it needs to be implemented in a way that makes sure that nobody's getting discriminated against.
It still affects me now, and I'm on a different track than I would have liked to be on.
In middle school, my guidance counselor never told me about extension. Well, there were extensions then, but really it was the math track that would get you to calculus in high school. And I think if my parents hadn't pushed me to do it, then I would have never done it at all.
Institutionalized racism, yeah, I mean, we definitely have stuff like that, because if you look at the class I was in, ChemCom, which is like modified chemistry, like I didn't sign up for it, but I came to school on the first day, and that's my schedule said ChemCom on it. So, I come to my class, and everybody in the class supposedly has an IEP, which is like special education, document that says, you go down, you have academic support, you take your tests in a different class, and it's like they put all those same kids in one classroom. Like the majority of them were like people of color anyway. So it's like, the only way to change something like that is like, mix it in the classroom. You know what I mean? Because you learn from other people. Whether like obviously some kids are going to be smarter than other kids in the class, but you can't put all the smarter kids in one class, all the medium level, and the lowest, because you're not going to learn anything from each other. You know what I mean? The only way to mix it in is to change anything would be to like mix it in.
I mean, I'd say being African American in Amherst has its disadvantages. I can't think of any advantages per se, but I mean, just looking around, I mean, I guess a lot of people say that racism doesn't exist today because of, African Americans who are in high up jobs, like the President of the United States of America. But I always tend to think of that as an individual who's reached that state and climbed the socioeconomic ladder and the political ladder to that point. But I think as a collective, there's still a lot of work to be done, and I think as long as there's prejudice against African Americans, then they're always going to be in a troublesome state.
Well, I think that Amherst has a lot of different kind of people here. I think that race is somewhat discussed, but I also think there's a lot left to be talked about.
People like to stay happy, and like the human mind, you can do anything you want inside of there, so they could just take this idea out, hide this one, forget that one's there, and just, like, you've never really known how hard something was until you actually experienced it.
There's no way it can be post-racial era, because slavery ended less than 150 years ago. There's no way we can improve like that fast. Racism is still here. It's still strong. Am I right? Post-racial era, my ass. Yeah.
Alright, so you want to know what I think about monsters, Amherst. You know, we were also talking about zombies. I think that the whole thing about science fiction is it is created and written to make people think that things that are real aren't real. You know, we're talking about zombies and monsters. You know what? When you see people walking around with their iPods and the Blackberries and the Bluetooth and everything, just because somebody doesn't have flesh hanging off them doesn't mean they're not a zombie. Well, as a black man, ask yourself. People of color, non-gender conforming people are treated like monsters in this country and in many parts of the world. We all know. A friend of mine was telling me, you know, going back to science fiction, how black people are looked at as aliens in this country. You know, because Africans were abducted and then genetic modification was performed on them, and now we're aliens in this strange land. It's not too far-fetched. It's not too far-fetched.